Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate that, Steph. It's actually Leonie, but I would love to be Leonie Lewis. I do get that one a lot, so yeah, I do love that first time on stage. Yeah, really excited to be here today and be joined by three very famous industry leaders. Really excited to hear about your background, your unique experience within the omnichannel space. So, I guess thinking about Omnichannel has become very much a buzzword over the last few years, I'd say. The pandemic has definitely escalated that. I think it's really become that consumers are now accustomed to that flexibility and convenience of being able to interact with brands at all sorts of levels and across a multitude of platforms. So that's why we need to be thinking about multi-channel, omnichannel at the heart of everything we're doing now. I think Liz talked about earlier, really it's crucial now. We've got that pressure from consumers to meet their expectations. And if we're not doing that, we're not going to be able to win in the space. So ever more crucial at this point in time, as well as we come into that peak period that we're thinking about the consumer expectation, what they're wanting to see from us as a brand, and making sure that we continue to win and stand out from the crowd. So Laura, I wanted to come to you first, just because the Perfume Shop, we've talked about you already today in Damien's opening section, and you're also such a huge omnichannel retailer who I'm sure everyone in the room has heard of. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the strategies that you're implementing at the moment? There's been a lot of news this year about some of the developments you're doing as a business. So really interested to hear about what's been the most effective and what are you learning from that at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose at the Perfume Shop, for those of you who don't know, hopefully you do all know us, but we are an online and an offline retailer. So we have a good 200 stores as well as our digital offerings. And for us, we talk a lot about online and offline, that whole principle of us being a complete omni-channel experience for our customer. And that's really at the heart of everything that we do. And really, I guess our omni-channel or our online and offline approach is what we really view as our superpower. So it's our differentiator. We've got a lot of pure players out there trying to get our market share. And what we can offer that's different is that in-person experience as well. So for us, our strategy is really around how we pull those two kind of forces together and really deliver a joined up experience for our customer. So some of the things coming out from us and that we've been kind of working on over the last couple of years, really spurred on by COVID, is our kind of store fulfillment model that we now offer. So one of our big challenges online was that we would sell out of whatever fragrance is really popular at the moment very quickly, and our customer wouldn't be able to get the product that they were looking for. We are a very seasonal retailer, so that is quite a problem for us at Christmas. So what we've been working on is a solution that essentially enables us to open up all of our store stock for our online customer. So they can now get any product that they order delivered, if it's not in our warehouse, from our store teams as well. So what this has done is really brought us together as the online and offline parts of the business. We are working as one TPS towards that goal that really services that customer. And what it started doing for us is really opening up new channel opportunities as well. So we announced in the press a couple of months ago that we were partnering with Deliveroo. We launched that yesterday. And without our store teams, we wouldn't be able to do that. So it's been a really great way for us to really build that digital presence alongside kind of working in partnership with our store teams.
That's amazing. Laura, and on the Deliveroo partnership, that's amazing timing for now.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
I thought, I can just mention that. Yeah. Find us on Deliveroo, everyone.
And is that, on that partnership specifically, are you thinking about a certain mindset and a certain type of customer that you're going after more?
Yeah, so prudently launched just in time for Christmas. Absolutely about that last minute shopper. Obviously, we've seen the Google Insight, but we're expecting that to be, a very last minute period, particularly in the last week before Christmas. And for us, it's a great opportunity to tap into a really broad audience of new potential customers for us. So, it's exciting. And we've already had some orders, which I was very pleased about.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you very much. And Andrew, coming to you as well, I'd love to hear some more about the evolution of Nobody's Child. I feel like it's an omni-channel evolution in itself, so it would be great to hear more about that story from yourself as the founder.
Yeah, of course. I mean, first full disclaimer, I wasn't supposed to be here today, so I'm filling in for Chris, who is the expert on digital for Nobody's Child, but I asked him to send me a few bullet points. He sent me 2 A4s to try and get through in the last 12 hours. So I have got a little bit I can add, which is a bit more granular. But sort of higher level, the other thing I want to say is the reason I accepted filling in for Chris, specifically for Incubeta, and I want to say this just off topic because I was thinking about it this morning. When I was growing Nobody's Child about 4 years ago, when we run into our first, probably not our first, probably fifth or sixth wave of trouble, we owed 1.8 million to 128 creditors. And I wrote a personal letter to all the creditors asking them to be patient because I'd engaged M&S in a much more larger strategic partnership. And of all those creditors, the one that stood by us with quite a large sum of money was Incubeta. So most of you might not be familiar with that. Some of those people have left the business, but that's why we've been so loyal back, because you guys were great. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that. So I'm very grateful for your support. And of course, we've been on an amazing journey together for the last 4 years as we've continued to grow. For our evolution, of course, we've always been pure play. We've now got stores. We are moving more unified. We've recently introduced digital product passports. That's how I coexist between retail and tech. I founded Fabicus actually the same year I founded Nobody's Child, with an ambition to fix visibility and traceability in the supply chain. And thankfully the rest of the world has now caught up 8 years later, and it's become mandatory by law. And it transpired that everything we were building would solve that problem. And so we were one of the first movers to launch our passports last year, which means that actually we're talking to our consumers at individual unit level. And it's incredible. That's driving loyalty, touch point, communication, and unlocking a whole load more potential that we haven't really potentialised yet, but we will over the coming months.
Amazing, yeah, thank you. I love the digital product passports idea. It feels so unique. Where did that idea come about? And you were doing the research? I'm
just conscious of the time. I mean, I can bore everyone for weeks on it. But I started building Fabicus, discovered a problem in the licensing industry over a coffee, met somebody who was at Disney. He was head of digital transformation. I said, great title, what does that mean? He said, basically, we got 4,000 licensees around the world producing consumer products. And if you ask anyone in my building to give you a list of those products, they can't. So we unlocked this opportunity, which wasn't a Disney problem, it was a $360 billion licensing industry problem, whereby we're creating what we call authenticated catalogues for licensors, for IP owners globally, so all the studios. So fast forward the last 5 years, we've signed everybody, so Disney, Warner, Universal, Paramount, Hasbro and others. And we've become a de facto in doing that. But the byproduct of having that structured data enabled us to create these amazing consumer experiences by creating unique codes linked back to the catalogue. So if you buy a licensed consumer product, you go into Sports Direct and you buy a Venom t-shirt, you're buying it because it says UFC. You're a UFC fan, but actually the UFC have no idea who you are, nor does Venom, maybe Sports Direct. But as a fan, I want to speak to the brand. So we created this amazing experience. When the legislation started to unfold about 2 years ago, talking about having unique identifiers in products, we were like, we've been doing this for 4 years. And I was in a privileged position where I have my own brand. So I was like, right, I want to be first. So we launched it last summer, and now we're on generation 5 of the passport, and it's been incredible.
Amazing, thank you for sharing that. And Frank, for yourself, obviously you've worked with a number of household brands. Can you talk about any of the multi-channel, cross-platform strategies that you've seen and advised on implementation, and talk to the success of any of those?
The most important advice that I've ever seen given when discussing omnichannel strategy is unified objectives in the business. So often I've seen it that you would have a field sales team or a direct retail team or an indirect retail team that saw another channel as a competitor. I once sat in a meeting where they said our biggest competitor isn't this brand or this brand, it's our own e-commerce team. And that's where you know that problem can only be fixed inside the business. So working with the organization to say, if each of these teams could do the best job, they are going to cannibalize each other. How do we make that a part of our strategy, not a weakness? Mm-hmm. And to me, that part of the organizational transformation, which is a core part of any marketing principle, especially when you're bringing in new capability, is super important. Because someone said earlier, everyone's scared of change. And making that change something that everyone can benefit from, I think is a key way of winning in that space. especially when you're thinking omnichannel.
Definitely. You've actually touched upon our kind of later topic as well around, the topic of today in general, digital transformation. We've talked about that a lot already, that amazing job title that someone had. But I think, that in itself is more than just technology and everything that's coming about now, the introduction of AI. It's about changing mindsets and educating wider businesses and stakeholders, taking them on that journey. So I'd love to hear about your experiences around how you're doing that within teams and navigating that piece.
I think that there are so many people I've been very fortunate to do this for 25 years, and I've seen themes come and go and come back again. So I remember when mobile became a huge thing and everyone on the web team was suddenly concerned, what's going to happen to our website? And it was always, this isn't going to really be that important. No one's ever going to buy something on a phone. They don't have the time, they don't have the engagement. And I'm seeing the same conversation happening now with AI. Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same. And I think vividly now where we've gotten to with something like the digital space is you can say digital really does three things. It helps you build brand, it drives commercial success, and it builds loyalty. Mm-hmm. It can do many other things, but all of them are almost in service of one of those three. From any sort of, if you're in a meeting with the SMT or a C-suite, those are the three things they want to hear about, fundamentally contributing to OI. AI now, to me, the key question to ask is how is this changing consumer behavior? Yes, you can use it internally to automate some things. Yes, you might be able to do some really cool experiments. But what is going to be the difference to the consumer in the next few years? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the conversations that I've been having with many of my clients is there will come a time where potentially a customer will go to Google Gemini, it might be built into search, it might not be, ChatGPT, something else, ask a question, and the answer will be given to them in that platform. They'll never leave it. They won't come to your site. So how do you make sure that your content is what's coming up first? And that if there is then a purchase opportunity, that it's embedded there. And that's the lady from Pause who was saying, how do I get funding for this? How do you get funding for that? It doesn't even exist. You're planning years ahead. But the real question is, I saw all of that work invested into fantastic work on website that now is barely used. Everyone's on mobile. So it was like, well, we had to accept that that was invested to get us to where we wanted to be, but there was always going to be a next thing that we would need to take the learnings, move ahead, and continue reinvesting. And to me now, really, with almost all of the clients I speak to, that's the main conversation I have with them. How is this going to affect your customer experience? Mm-hmm. And then if there's opportunities for you to automate your own internal business processes, that's even better.
That's a really good point you touched on there. I think a lot of brands and retailers are stressed about their website experience, but in particular the homepage, which a lot of people might not even land on necessarily. So, and yeah, obviously now it's a lot about focusing on content. Content is going to be surfaced within the way that search landscape is changing and the way that's going to be pulled through. So yeah, really interesting. Thank you. Laura, coming to you, with the Perfume Shop on their AI journey, if you like, where would you say you're at with that? Are you exploring technology? What place are you in?
So I would say that we're exploring, but I would say we're probably at the earlier stages. I would say we definitely use various different technologies that support us and that are then powered by AI. So for us, from an online point of view, we use tools that really have helped us to massively step change our UX experience, as an example, by really rapidly speeding up how we can implement our test and learn strategy. So no longer are we doing A and B, it's A, B, C, D, we've got a lot more capacity in that sense. And the other area that we really kind of lean on it is from a personalisation point of view. So really helping us to actually start to make the most of the data that we've got to give much more personalised recommendations for our customers.
Amazing. And okay, question for everyone really, I guess, when we're talking about AI, giving over some of that control, where do you think that sits with the heightened data privacy regulations, from brands that you work with, Frank, and yourselves? How does that sit with you and your business internally?
So
I was just, my penny's worth on AI is it's a productivity tool. It's not going to be a world full of robots and everything automated. That's not going to happen. Data integrity is still overlooked significantly, and so therefore the output is hindered. And so all of the things that we want to achieve, if we don't address the root cause and have that rich data quality, you're never going to be able to achieve some of the things that are possible. And the other thing that I'm seeing a lot is, especially when you're talking about consumer products in retail, I try and encourage my team to come up 50,000 feet and understand the value chain from end to end, because if we operate in silos, the biggest pain points actually sit out of our standard remits. So when you think about retail today that's challenged, especially in pure play, physical blends that a little bit, but in pure play, you've still got logistics challenge and costs and everything everywhere going on. And when you want to zoom in to using AI as a tool in one area, that's never going to change the whole business. It's going to be great as a productivity tool. We use it in different capacities, but I think the one message I've been trying to get across to a lot of people that feel a little bit intimidated by the potential of AI is actually we're still a long way away from achieving the potential of AI, and it will always have a dependency on the data quality in order to achieve some of the outputs that people talk about. You know, I'm in a lucky position where I meet lots of businesses every week, some to pitch, me to pitch to them, or whatever it may be. And actually, when you peel the onion, it's not an onion. That's the reality, and that is still 90% plus of people that make noise about AI.
Interesting, Laura. Did you
yeah, no, I suppose just to add, I guess there's a lot of nervousness still about it, and from a privacy point of view, it can mean it's quite slow to be able to implement things because you're having to go through a lot of internal process to make sure everything's tick every box. So I think it can be quite a frustrating process to go through, but it's one that's necessary to be able to kind of make sure that we're doing it in a privacy secure way.
Of course, yeah. And are you seeing it more, I guess for everyone, seeing it more about those internal processes and making things a bit easier and automating things for your internal business, or are you thinking of it more from a consumer mindset and for personalisation, or as you said?
I was going to add one more point. One of the large corporations that we signed this year, impressively, already included in their standard contract the use of their data for using it in any LLMs, any models, any machine learning. They're already starting to provision for that. And the minute everybody moves to that legal framework, that immediately will start to hinder quite a lot of things as well. So I think there's still a few more hurdles before we get to the art of the possible.
I think there's also the topic of global mindset. If you're talking about the US or UK, then the tools are available, work pretty well. But if you're going into China, if your business involves China, you're with a totally different set of partners. Most of the tools that we all know and talk about now don't even work there. Even the EU, which is not as far away, and it's a very large business for a lot of organizations. It's a key market. Most of these AI tools it's unsure if they can be used, mostly from a legal perspective, as you said. So at the moment, I think one of the dangers is that one can get very caught up in a sort of Anglo-US-centric view of it, because that's how most of the communications about it is being distributed. But once you leave English language and you leave UK-US, the whole game of it changes. I mean, Apple still does not have an equivalent partner to ChatGPT for iOS 18 for China. And that's out now. They don't have a partner. No one's announced. So that's just another part to think about, I think, for anyone who has a more than English view of how they're going to use these tools.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Those global regulations and the difference there will really have an impact, and that's probably not something we've spoken about because we just hear about what's happening in the UK. So yeah, really interesting to hear that. We've got just over a minute left, so it'd be great to just hear from each of you any kind of last minute takeaways for the audience today around any of our topics, wider omnichannel, or coming into peak, where you'd advise people to be investing their media spend. I guess given that we talked about all those touch points that customers are going to go on their purchase journeys towards peak. So yeah, any last minute takeaways would be great.
I'll defer to the experts. I'm here to learn. So
I've been in many organizations where people said, I want to test everything, test it all. And I think that part of the calculation that I've always advised my clients to execute in the businesses I've worked in, consider everything is energy. Time is energy, money is energy, priority is energy. Where do you want to put your energy? You can't put your energy into everything. You can't test everything. So at the end of the day, you have to make a decision on where you want to expend your energy. And when you think about it as energy, it changes the criteria a little from when you think about it as just money. Because time is also money, but people factor it differently.
Okay, Laura?
So I would say coming into Christmas, obviously our busy time. Please get shopping, perfumeshop.com. Shameless
Everyone
plug.
needs perfume.
For us, and I guess like anyone, advice, I would say first-party data. We've kind of talked about it quite a lot today already, but a key priority for us, making sure that we're building the audiences that we need now, and then getting those really strong plans in place to kind of action those audiences as we get into Christmas. So yeah, listening to the insight that we've had and putting it into action. That's it.
Amazing. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.